I'll share screen and turn it over to Jim.
Okay, here we go. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for joining us today for this month's CPS Coordinators Forum. Today, we're going to take a look at the hats that we wear, all of the responsibilities that we have. It probably varies from coordinator to coordinator. My name is Jim Savage, and I'm the current chair for the National Child Passenger Safety Board and also the co-child passenger safety coordinator for the state of Wisconsin. I'm based out of Children's Wisconsin, which is the largest children's hospital here in Wisconsin. And I also do some volunteer work with Kids in Motion. And my co-presenter today is Mandi Seethaler, and she is a past chair of the CPS board, currently our Community Engagement Committee chair. She is the Deputy Director of Safe Alaskans, and she is also the CPS Coordinator for Alaska. Did I get that all right, Mandi?
I think you did. Thanks, Jim. You even said my last name right.
Okay, awesome. Next slide, Kendra. So just a reminder that we ask you not to participate in this forum if you are operating a motor vehicle. And just know that the recording will be posted to the CPS board website, usually within a day or two. So you'll be able to go back and take a look at all the great information that you learned today. Next slide. So just to start out, kind of as an icebreaker, let us know, how do you share your contact information with the populations that you serve? So just drop it in the chat and just kind of let us know. How do you get the word out about what services are available? We've got websites. There might be a prize for the most creative one.
So Jim, I can't see the chat at the moment, but how do you share your information? How do you get the word out that you're available?
How do we share our information in Wisconsin? Well, so our Children's Hospital is also the lead agency for Safe Kids Wisconsin. And so we hold the contract for the state child passenger safety program. And so most of our populations are driven to the Safe Kids Wisconsin website. We have a section specifically for child passenger safety technicians there. We also have a tab that's for caregivers. That's where we have our contact information. And then reaching the technicians and the instructors, we try to have a regular e-newsletter that goes out to them, just letting them know of updates and what's going on. Got to say that we don't do anything that's overly creative. That's why I'm hoping that somebody has some great creative ideas they will share here with us. And don't worry, as we move forward, you'll get another chance to participate. We've got an activity at the end where we'll ask everybody to participate, and the information that we gather then we'll share back with you afterwards. And just checking my notes here to make sure I've got everything. I think we're ready to move forward.
Perfect. Well, Jim and I chatted a little bit and we were trying to figure out, how do we do the things that we do? So we found some large buckets of what we do as coordinators and program managers, and how do we kind of manage our CPS program. So we kind of came up with data collection and analysis, training and certification, promoting child restraint use, our law enforcement and public awareness, program assessment and evaluation, and distribution. So throughout our presentation today, we're going to talk a little bit about what child passenger safety coordinators and program managers do, and then we're going to want to have the activity, as Jim mentioned, and we're talking about how do you do it, and we'd like to share some ideas and learn from one another.
Okay, so if you notice the hats down in the bottom corner, that's our prompt to know whose slide it's who's talking when. So I'm the pirate. For those of you who know me, my dog's name is Pirate. That's why I've got the pirate hat. And so from a document that you will find on cpsboard.org, and in case you didn't know, at the CPS Board website, there is an actual web page just for you as coordinators. If you see the QR code down in the, I guess we added a larger QR code to this page. That QR code takes you to that page. And we'll also share the link in the meeting chat too. Just know that you'll find a lot of different resources there. One of the resources is a document that talks about our role as a CPS coordinator, whether it be for a state, whether it be for a territory, whether it be for a tribe. And so there you'll find information. You'll actually find a link to a listing of all of the CPS coordinators on the NHTSA website, and also a link to the Indian Health Services site where you can find representatives for the tribes. And so from that document, the different roles that we're going to look at today, we're going to focus it on how do we communicate and provide resources for these various populations. So we're going to look at how do we work with the public, how do we work with the CPS community, how do we relay information back and forth to the Highway Safety Office, to NHTSA, to Safe Kids certification, and also the CPS board.
So we're going to take each one of those and break them down just a little bit and chat about it. So we're going to talk about what we do, and then in our next section, we'll talk about kind of how we do it. So one of our primary for all of us is working with the public, connecting them with state CPS resources like your RAC cards, your calendar about when your trainings are happening, CPSTs in their area, inspection stations, low or no cost seats. We'll talk about distribution a little bit later. And then how are you available to answer questions, provide information regarding best practice, and where can they find your law? You know, I think it's a little bit challenging for our families to read the law. So do you have a summary of it, and is it easy to find? So there's lots of websites that can help you. And are you linking to those websites on your website? And how are you connecting people with that information? One of the things I wanted to point out is that there is an inspection station list on NHTSA.gov. And if Kendra will drop that link into the chat. When's the last time you checked to see if your fitting stations were updated? You know, it's been a little bit for me, and I want to shout out to Lynn Zotto, the Region 10 Program Manager. She helped me get all of my fitting stations updated, and I think it's something we should review every year as we're putting together our programs. Make sure that your fitting stations are accessible. So that is one way that you can do that. And then people can find you to ask their questions. So we'll talk more about how you do it. And I'd like to learn, where do you provide your updates? And we'll come back to that.
Okay, so in our role working with the CPS community, some of the suggestions and different parts of our role there would be to support and mentor child passenger safety technicians, proxies, and instructors, updating your technicians and sharing information. It looks like we've talked about some different streams, communication streams that we use to connect with our technician populations. Providing local CPS program leaders with the information on certified technicians. If you're not set up to be able to access technician and instructor information on the certification website, as the CPS coordinator, I'd encourage you to reach out and get that connection so that you have a direct link to the lists of the technicians that are in your area, your state or your territory. And part of your role can be to provide that information to local Safe Kids coordinators or other injury prevention coordinators, because they also are working with technicians. It's good for them to know who's certified, who may no longer be certified, just to give them an idea of different individuals in their area. And then it's recommended that you cultivate cooperative relationships to support CPS activities within the CPS community. There's such a wide range of of things that we could talk about today, but just know that toward the end, you'll be able to share your great ideas.
So speaking of great ideas, our role is working with others to provide what is the law and what are the best practice updates, promote distribution and assist with the development of educational materials, collect and share our fitting stations, and provide input for our highway safety plans, grant applications, annual reports, etc. So we're going to talk about how do you do that? What do you promote or distribute? How do you use your highway safety funds to share this or your other funding sources? How do you promote your fitting stations? Again, I just talked about where you can find them, but how do you share that with the public? Do you have an interactive map? Do you use the Find a Tech? And how do you provide input for your highway safety plans? You know, we're all going to be writing grants here pretty soon. How are you collecting that information? How are you sharing it? How are you sharing it with other agencies so they can provide those robust community programs too? I am going to ask about your rack cars and whatnot coming up. I'd like to find out, what do you promote and what do you distribute to your public to tell them what the best practice or the law is in your state. So let's come back to that here in a little bit.
And then our role working with NHTSA includes promoting National Child Passenger Safety Week. I know many of you probably coordinate events across your areas during CPS Week and National Seat Check Saturday, collecting and providing results from those events and providing those to your NHTSA regional CPS coordinator. If you're not keyed in with your regional CPS coordinator, I suggest you do that as well. And in assisting that coordinator to ensure that, as Mandi mentioned, that the fit stations in your area are up to date and current. And then if you didn't know, there are a lot of traffic safety resources on the NHTSA website and different campaign materials that you can use for National CPS Week or for any other event child passenger safety related that you might be doing.
Jim, before I change slides, I do want to give a shout out to trafficsafetymarketing.gov. They have some amazing materials just for you. So we also work with Safe Kids closely. Again, it's the certifying body. We want to make sure that we understand how to use the website. We can connect technicians with resources to recertify on that website, in addition to a couple others that Jim's going to talk about. And did you know that as coordinators, you have access to finding the list of the technicians in your state and getting their contact information, so you can use that to do your newsletters or find out what your recertification rates are. You can look to see who has opted in for virtual presentations or car seat checks. You can find out who's taken the special transportation courses. You can get a lot of information about your technicians in your state, and it can help you address your program and how you want to do it. But if you have questions about that, we can help you navigate that and figure out how to use the system and do your searches. This is also a place, I think, where Safe Kids, you can find some of their events on their training calendar. And there are so many downloads. It's a really fantastic website to obtain materials. But here is another.
And I just want to call out what Sid had put in the chat. She said that they refer to their fitting stations as car seat assistance stations instead, and that's a great idea. I know the verbiage varies quite a bit, and I know that we've tried to veer away from using installation sites because, again, we're not there to install car seats, we're there to educate. And so our role working with the National CPS Board, both Mandi and I can tell you that we love it when you promote the Technician, Instructor, and Team of the Year awards. We encourage you all to submit applications or to encourage your populations to submit applications. We do get quite a few applications, but we would love it if we were just inundated with applications and it took us months and months to determine who the of the year people are, because everybody could use some recognition. promoting CPS board openings and vacancies. And again, we'll be announcing some vacancies, unfortunately, including both mine and Mandy's positions are coming open. But for next year, we'll have additional vacancies that are coming open. And we encourage you to spread the word, to apply yourself, or to encourage your CPS populations and partners to apply. Providing feedback on the standardized curricula. If you didn't know, currently right now we're going through some curriculum updates, hoping that they'll be out. Well, I shouldn't say hoping, we're guaranteed by Tammy Franks, who's leading the charge, that they will be out by the end of 2024. Oh, there she is. She came on screen. And we really think that you'll like what you'll see in the updates. And in case you didn't know, we also have a diversity resource library that's also housed at cpsboard.org. So just some ways that you can work with the CPS board. If there's anything that we can do to help you out, feel free to reach out. That would your main contact would be Kendra, who is secretariat at cpsboard.org. And if you've got a burning question or looking for an answer, let us know.
Thanks, Jim. Well, we're going to move into the how do we do this. And I'll give you a little side note. My little icon is the cowboy hat. I did grow up in Colorado on a farm, but sometimes in the CPS world, I feel like I'm herding cats, so it all kind of flowed in. So we're going to have, I think, 4 or 5 slides talking about what we do. And if you want to grab a piece of paper and jot yourself some notes, think about how you are doing this. Again, we're going to have an activity at the end of these slides, and we'd like to hear from you. We want to know, and we want to exchange some ideas, and let us all have a moment of inspiration. So for data collection and analysis, how do you collect your data? What are your key points that you have to collect every year? Have you thought about expanding those? Have you found something that really makes a difference in your program? Are you using the National Digital Check form? Do you have your own form? How are you collecting that information from others in your state? How are you analyzing that for program evaluation? So think on that just a little bit, and we're going to collect your ideas.
And then in the area of training and certification, how do you coordinate your trainings? How do you ensure that you are keeping the number of technicians that you need to serve the populations? How do you target areas where you may not have technicians or child passenger safety programs? And also, how do you retain your technicians? What techniques do you have to keep them certified? How do you help them? How do you educate them? How do you I know sometimes it's holding hands, but really that's part of our role, to ensure that we're there to help the CPS technicians however we can. And also, how do you encourage law enforcement to participate in child passenger safety as well as the certification training? Some of these items are taken from some documents that are used when state child passenger safety program assessments are done. And I know from the experience here in Wisconsin that one of the recommendations was to increase the number of law enforcement who are certified technicians, and in particular crash reconstructionists who are certified technicians. So what ways have you come up to do that? And did you know that there's a new shorter course out there for law enforcement that you can provide for law enforcement, that provides kind of like a public awareness in law enforcement? So, I guess we jumped over Mandy's slide, but so here you will find a QR code that takes you to the Car Seat Basics for Law Enforcement course, which you will find on the Child Passenger Safety Learning portal. You'll have a link, you can get a link to it from the CPS board website as well. We encourage you to take a look at that and see how can we incorporate that in our state or territory. How can we raise the awareness of law enforcement on child passenger safety?
So Jim, I'm sorry that I switched slides on you, but you seem to be going right into it. It was a great
Sure.
time to share that resource. So that was just released last fall, and it was created by law enforcement from their point of view. They can complete it online, or you as an instructor or a technician can provide it in person. So learn more with that code. We'll come back to it. So how are you promoting child restraint use, car seat use in your state? How are you determining where your inspection stations should be? And how are you reaching those hard to reach booster seat kiddos? How are you keeping them in their booster seats longer? Do you have a great ad campaign? Do you go to your elementary schools? Do you go to your Head Starts? How are you doing this? How are you promoting child restraint use longer so we can meet the AAP guidelines? We'd like to hear about it. And then your program assessment. So how are you reaching out? Are you doing some GIS tracking where you're going around your state to try to figure out where are your technicians, where are your inspection stations? How are you planning to meet the needs of those that are underserved? How are you coordinating that with others in your state? And honestly, it says periodically, but are we doing it regularly every year? What are you looking at, and how are you doing it? We'd like to exchange some ideas with you and find out how that's happening. Pirate is very, very enthusiastic about that one.
He is. And then finally, distribution programs. So I think in one form or another, we probably have programs in all of our areas where car seats are being distributed. And how is that done? I know for some of us that might be an integral part of our role, where for others, that might be within a different department that handles the distribution and the flow of NHTSA funds for car seat purchase and how they're distributed. So I would really like to see just a session on distribution programs where we could talk how we distribute, because I know that in some areas it may be funding that's going to a local municipality who may be targeted as a result of overrepresentation of motor vehicle crashes. While in other areas, the funding may come to the state, and then the state does blanket orders for car seats. And if you're eligible, then you're provided a certain amount of funding, and you determine which car seats you'd like to have shipped directly to you. So think about your role within car seat distribution within the state. Do you charge? Do you not charge? And how records do you keep? And hopefully we're all moving more toward use of the National Digital Check Form to help us keep track of our car seat distributions. So just one more thing that we're going to discuss in the fun activity coming up.
So speaking of fun, let's jam. So we have done this in the past where we created a jam board where we could share some ideas. So I'm going to exit. If I can do this quite right, give me just a little bit of grace because it's kind of hard. So in the chat, we are going to put a link to the Jamboard. Am I sharing the right one? Or bear with me. Okay, now I'm seeing this. Okay, fantastic. So if you look right up here at the top as you're getting logged on, there are going to be several pages with some of the questions that we just talked about. And how this works is that if you would like to chat or to talk to us, or if we can ask you questions, include your name. If you'd like to be anonymous, that's okay too. But you can grab a sticky note. And how do you collect and analyze data? Well, for starters, we use the National Digital Check Form. I'm going to put my name there, and then that way, if one of you has a question about what we do, we can ask, or if we see something up there that we'd like to talk about, we will chat at you. And if you'd like to come out or off of mute, we'd love to hear from you as well. If this is challenging for you, then you can go ahead and put your information in the chat. We know that Teams and Jamboard and all these items can be a little bit hard But what we would like to do is hear from you. We want to exchange some ideas so that we can all improve our programs and find out how to do it. So we can all work together, or if you'd like to skip ahead to one of the others, if you've got something really great, we would love to see it. I see some of you coming on, which is fantastic. I think you can even change the color. Thanks, Lillian. Oh, and I like the inclusion of the state. That's fantastic. So we're going to take a few minutes and kind of go through these where you can add your ideas or something you would like to do. It doesn't have to be something you're currently doing, but it could be something that, hey, this is what we'd like to implement. And maybe someone that's doing something similar. Ooh, siren, that's awesome, Sid. They can share how they're doing the same thing. So once you get this data, it looks like a lot of us are using the National Digital Check Form. Are you creating the maps? Are you using the easy button that National Digital Check Form has put out? Once you get that data, how long have you been using it? Do you have a few years? Are you just getting started? Ooh. Heat mapping with zip codes with technicians. I like that. That sounds really great. And isn't it hard to figure out where all your technicians are? You know? So Jim, are you moving these stickies around? Is that your J?
I am.
Excel is our friend. Excel is everybody's friend. If you haven't used Excel, I would. Ooh, Qualtrics surveys. I love it. Are there more of you doing surveys out there? Do you go back to your caregivers after they've been at a car seat check event? Do you check in with them? Do they have recommendations? Do you have a caregiver that says, hey, I wish this would have happened?
And let us know if there's I'm personally interested. Let us know if there's a platform that you use, like if you do any sort of surveying of your technicians or instructors, or like a learning management platform that you use. Currently, we use something called Learning Stream, and we're evaluating it and to see if there's some other program that we might use, like for event registrations or for other course registrations that we have.
Kendra, are there any notes in the chat that we should know about, or Jim?
No, the chat has been quiet.
Okay. Seeing a lot of use of the NDCF. That's really exciting. I checked it the other day, and did you know that there's close to 180,000 car seat checks reported? You remember when our goal was 100,000? We already made it to 100K. We're blowing right past it. And thanks to NHTSA for these awesome images. The images that you find on these slides, you can find at the NHTSA image library, which is free to use. These are high quality graphics that you can use in your CPS program. For the person that said that their regional coordinators keep track of their data, do they share that data with you? Is that something that they, yep, and they report back to the state? That's fantastic. So you can collect. And do they use the same form? Observational studies, ooh.
And also what data points do you collect? Do you collect like number of car seat inspections? Or I'm sorry, what did Sid call it? I have to go back and look. Of course, now I can't find it, but do you have like activity reports that locals provide? Do you track car seat distributions? Is there any sort of a pre-post survey that you do if a car seat is distributed?
You know, Jim, we collect that. We have the caregiver do a survey before we get started. How easy is it for you to use? Have you been to a car seat check before, to kind of establish a baseline of their knowledge? And then we do an immediate post, and then we do a post checkup in about six weeks or so. Because we all know how quickly they lose it. They're anxious and excited right there at the car seat check, and then a few months later, it's like, oh, how do I lock that? Especially if they're frozen and they can't move their fingers while they're trying to do the installation.
And then Randy, there's a couple comments in the chat if you
Okay.
see those.
Yeah, can you read those for us?
Yeah, Rochelle Gillespie says in Illinois, we use the NDCF twice a year. I take the Illinois map by county and give it to the regional coordinators. How many techs or instructors are in each county they cover? And then Cynthia Calloway, they provide a tablet to encourage the use of the NDCF. We can then pull the data from there. For those who choose not to use a digital form, they scan their forms and we pull the info from those.
Awesome. For those of you that are using the chat to contribute to the forms, we will take your information and put it on these forms on this Jamboard. And then once we're all done in the next couple of days, we'll share these Jamboards with you so that you can look at these ideas. You can contact those that provided their information, and we can connect. And this also helps us figure out what we need to talk about. How can we help you? Again, if you have ideas for a CPS coordinators forum, if there's something like Jim said, we could do an entire session on one particular topic, we'd be happy to do that.
So I'm collecting the comments in the chat and putting them on stickies.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one while Jim finishes that up. You can always come back to these. You can toggle between. You're just happening to see the one that I'm looking at. Oh, look. All right. So how do you promote CPS to caregivers? PTS. Is that a parents meeting with schools? Organizations, churches, social media. Oh, this is a really good idea. Those PTOs are active too. We should. See, now I'm already feeling inspired. Things that I can do to expand and reach those hard to reach groups, especially those kindergartners. Hospital. Ooh, a media outreach coordinator. Wouldn't that be really awesome? That's exciting for whoever has one. Partnerships with grantees and
then Julie Brewer just posted that state crash data, NDCF data, and CPST ratio per kid population is what she uses to plan course location.
That's fantastic.
And Tammy added promoting car seat basics in the child passenger safety learning portal.
I'm going to add one here. One of the things that we do is we have a standing So we allow caregivers, if they just want to bop on for a few minutes and ask some questions, and then that usually leads to us recommending that they schedule a car seat check. So if you wanted to include something else, how do you promote CPS to caregivers? How do you promote it to your other groups? You know, are you looking at your ER departments where they're discharging kiddos that have been in a crash, or you know, this isn't just limited to caregivers, although they're the end user. Regional coordinators have to do so many education. Yep, media campaigns. So speaking of social media, the CPS board, you know, we're pretty active on social media and we have a lot of fun with it, but our content is available at cpsboard.org, and you can download our social media tiles and use them in your newsletters. They're grouped by topic, You can use them on your social media channels. Of course, you can just share them directly from ours, but we do make those available for you. And there have been some good ones. All of the board members contribute to creating the social media, so you get a different point of view. And we've got some pretty creative members. It's fun to see what comes up in those.
I just posted the link in the chat, and now Jim's getting caught up, it looks like. But Julie Brewer and Christy Kauser both use a social media outreach coordinator or a paid media buyer for free ads, but to promote their information out there.
Very nice. Julie, if I could ask, does that is it just for CPS, or does that cover all of your different programming, with bike safety or whatnot?
So my primary target audience when we did it was CPS. So,
okay.
But I know that the other partnerships within the state, Bike Ped and that kind of stuff, they do work with our paid media buyer to try to get the free icing on the cake kind of above the top from the media outlets, and it's been pretty successful just because she's willing to ask on our behalf, and they haven't turned anybody down yet. So
that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, since you're there, tell us about your CPS technician app.
For the state of Tennessee, we have, and it's actually available to anyone. It's free in the Android and app on iPhone devices. It's just an app that we created, kind of a warehouse kind of app that you can answer some basic questions, or you can reach what I like to call it is that it puts all of your favorite links in one app. So quick links to the CPS board for technicians, or the AAP guidelines for medical providers, or links to the Safe Kids for techs in the field, NHTSA recall list, just all the special things in one place, and it's free. So we do promote that at most of our community engagement events. We pass out little app wallet, call a wallet card, so they can caregivers can download it and use it as needed. But it's something we built because it was a need a long time ago, and we just kind of maintain it now. So if anybody changes their link, we have to update the app.
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing that a lot lately with the CPS board resources changing.
Sorry.
No, it's
but
great.
Thank you. This sounds really great. Is there a link you could drop in the chat for those of us that want to learn more?
Yeah, I can.
Sure. Thank you, Julie. All right. So how do you work with law enforcement to maintain enforcement of CPS laws? We've been hearing a lot about this, how do we engage law enforcement? So if you just heard about it today, Car Seat Basics for Law Enforcement at the Learning Portal, I would really encourage you to take a few minutes and sign up. It's a free course. Of course, you can go through it. It takes about an hour. It is fantastic and such an amazing resource for us to engage law enforcement. Again, it was created from their perspective. Tammy, if there's any additional info you want to share here, please feel free. The course can be taken online or in person, and it can be taught by an instructor or a CPS technician. In our state, we have lots of LEs. Oh, do people have LELs too? While we're on the topic, law enforcement may get the information out in our network meetings. Very nice. Our workforce is so small. Conflicting priorities. Yeah. Cheat sheets. Ooh, I would be interested to see what you do for your cheat sheet. Doing a law enforcement basics class at our state traffic safety conference. Really nice. Certification courses. A ticket card for law enforcement. We do have LELs. We have created a law card for LE. Oh, very nice, Lillian.
And Tammy made a shout out in the chat for the instructor forum in March, and we'll be exploring ways that states are using Car Seat Basics for law enforcement.
Ooh, there you go. that is one of the best parts about this CPS Coordinators Forum, is that we can share ideas and learn about trainings that are coming up and how we can learn more. Okay. I'm going to move along, but you can always come back to any of these and add more information. How do you enlist the media? Oh, we just had a great conversation about that. That free media is fantastic. The cpsboard.org media that's available. We do frequent news releases, radio interviews. Ooh, that's awesome. Social media. Is everyone becoming a social media expert? And do you have a favorite channel? Do you use Instagram, Facebook? Are some of you Snapchatting, or are you doing other like little videos? Anybody? If you want to put a link on here to your site, you can throw that on a sticky note or in the chat. And are you following cpsboard.org on our channels? Again, our content is free to use and free to share. Paid and earned media using the Instagram to contact a media outreach coordinator. Yep. Okay. I'm just going to get these other two boards up here so we can make sure we see them. Describe your car seat distribution programs. As Jim said, this could be an entire session. How are you doing it? There is a lot of variety. Statewide distribution sends out an annual application for distribution partners. Liaisons reach out to all inspection stations twice a year. Agencies can charge for seats to go back to the program, but the majority of them do not. They distribute about 90% of the counties to low-income participants. We charged. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your ideas. You know, this is always a hard question. What is the best way to do it? So I'm really excited to read how you're doing it and how we might all consider what we're doing. In the state of Alaska, we do try to coordinate our distribution program. So we're sending the same messages. If we're asking for a donation, we try to be consistent in our donation ask. Our seats are completely free to families in need, no charge, Maine. That's awesome. Okay, let's take a quick look at the last slide and then we'll come back as we need to. Okay, this one is blank. So there may be something that you would like to share that we haven't covered on any of these Jamboards. If there is, you can put it on that sixth one, or you can put it in the chat. If you're doing something really innovative, Julie, I'm going to give a shout out to you. We were organizing our car seat room and we came across Ollie the Otter the other day, and we're excited to get him out so he can do a tour this summer at some of our events. I feel like he really helps us engage the kiddos. Only in Alaska, we do call him the buckle bear. You know, we don't have otters in Alaska. Jim, how's it going?
I think I got every comment, hopefully.
Good. So again, we will share those with you. If you see something that you would like to talk about more, we can certainly do an entire coordinator forum on any one of these topics. And thank you to Jim for putting these together and organizing the information. All right, how are we doing? Are we ready to besmart.org? Yep. Printable off the webpage. So I think most of you have my email address, but if you ever wanted to share your CPS RAC card, I would love to see what other states are doing. You can email it to me. You can text it to me, whatever works best for you. But we're always looking to improve our own RAC card, and I would love to see what you're doing. We also in Alaska put together a law enforcement card. It's a smaller one that they can carry. So if you have any samples of those materials you'd love to share, I would personally love to connect with you and share ideas about how to put those together and what information you include. All right, Jim, are we ready to go back and do a little summary, or are we still working here?
Well, we've got a little bit of time. Is there, I think you asked a little bit earlier, but does anybody have a burning question that we haven't addressed, or an area within your role that we might be able to have a short discussion on? Don't be shy.
Jim, I think one of the questions that was asked earlier was training and certification and technician retention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the ways that we do it here in Texas, we do provide funding to subgrantees across the state, and several of our statewide projects, we ask them to develop a strategic plan based on the number of technicians, and they try to figure out where the gaps are for the technicians, and that's where they try to coordinate the certification classes. A lot of the times, of course, they're going to be like rural areas that are, hard to find locations to conduct certification classes. So they'll do it like in a neighboring city, but invite those people in those areas to attend. Anyone that's interested in becoming a technician, that way we can place technicians in those areas. But they also, for retention, they also send out reminders letting them know that they're up for renewal, and offer resources, connect them with instructors within their areas or proxies, so that they can help them, guide them through recertification or help them in any way they can.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna.
So speaking of certification and recertification, we should talk about the hybrid a little bit, making sure you know it's a resource to you. Jim, you've taught a couple hybrid courses now, haven't you?
Yes, we have. We've done 4 in Wisconsin, and we've learned a lot along the way. We learned that we need to provide as much information up front as we can to a potential student. Most of the students will do an excellent job with virtual learning, but there are some where virtual learning might not be the best way for them to learn. So we've tried to feel that out before the course starts, just to make sure that the student is enrolled in the right type of course, and possibly in some cases the in-person might be a better option for them. I think the other thing for instructors to know is that, and any of you who have taught the hybrid who's on here today, feel free to speak out. We were, for the first course, we were surprised, and since then have been impressed with the level of preparedness for the students when they get to the hands-on portions of the course. And if you think of how an in-person course goes, usually you've got students in small teams, and usually one's taking the lead, the other one might be helping, or you might have one that's doing more observing than actual hands-on in some of the activities. With the hybrid course, students are responsible for their own learning, and so I think we really saw that when it came to the in-person days, that they completed their assignments, they learned, and they were ready to go through the skills evaluations and the hands-on parts. That's been my takeaway of the courses that we've done.
Jim, we had a similar experience. Our students came very prepared for the in-person portion and did well on the skills evaluations.
And Tammy added in the chat that 99% of the students who complete the online learning and virtual sessions pass the skills evaluations.
It's exciting, and it helps us reach some of our rural technicians or technicians to be. It allows them to do the training and maybe travel less. They only need to come in for a couple of days, or you need to travel for a couple of days. So I found that it's been really helpful in reaching more locations.
Yeah, and if I know many of us are instructors, but if you work with instructors in your state who may be reluctant to the hybrid, feel free to reach out. Reach out to the CPS board members, contact Kendra and see if she can connect you with instructors who have taught it. I know my co-state CPS coordinator and I, we sat in on a meeting in another state where they were discussing how to move into the hybrid courses. And so we just shared what we learned, and they were able to answer questions. And I think most instructors would welcome the opportunity to meet with you and answer any questions that you have, if you do have instructors that are looking for more information. And of course, we have the How to Hybrid series, which is, I understand now, every month, and you can also find the invites for that on the CPS board website.
So Jim, this is so much information in just a short amount of time. We know that you do a million different things, and you have a lot on your plate. So if we can help you find ways to accomplish that, or provide resources, or show you where a resource has already been developed and again is free to you, please reach out if you have questions. We'd love to help and support you, and we'd also like to hear your ideas. A lot of you are doing some really amazing work, and you've been very innovative. And if you know of someone that's been innovative, you should nominate them for a CPS award, technicians, instructors, or teams. Jim, do you have anything to add?
I do not. I think do we have some mentions of some upcoming opportunities?
Do.
And so I mentioned early, these are CPS coordinator forums. I think I mentioned earlier that we have a new instructor forum series, but the upcoming CPS coordinator forums, we have them listed here for February and March. February, I think, is going to be very interesting. We're gonna hear from some of our NHTSA friends who are going to introduce us to the bipartisan infrastructure law or bill. Some of you are probably more versed about it than I am. I don't know much, but my understanding is that there are parts of that law that will impact child passenger safety and may benefit many of our programs. And then in March, we'll be talking about how to leverage data to support your program. And the board's webinar series continues in February, where we will be talking about using countermeasures that work to strengthen your CPS program. So if you didn't know, NHTSA recently published a report talking about effective countermeasures and how you can implement them. And so we will hear from our NHTSA friends talking about the report and giving us some ideas on how we can use countermeasures in our programs. There is did the date change for this one?
It did. It was previously the day before, I believe, on Wednesday, and now it's on Thursday.
Okay.
On Thursday, the 22nd.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had about 2 minutes to make that change, and I missed half the change.
Okay. So it is on Thursday, the 22nd. And you can find all this, of course, at cpsboard.org.
Of course. And Mandi has one last thing to mention.
I do. So Dr. Bull is not retiring from her work, but she is retiring from the CPS board. She has been on it for over 25 years. So if you have taken the course, you have heard her. She's like the rock star in the CPS world, and we would like to really honor her service towards the board for the past 25 years. We have created a kudo board, and there's a scan code to it. If you need a link, I'm happy to email it to you as well. But you can go in and leave her a little note. If you have a picture or a story to share, please do so. It is free of charge. It is a secret, but you can share it with everyone, with the exception of Marilyn. And we would really love for you to send a little message to her. Again, it's a free board. You can click on this scan code or email us for the link and we can send you directly there. But please feel free to share it with everyone. We'd really love to honor her commitment and her dedication.
And don't forget, we're always looking for ideas for this forum. The forum is actually is really for you, to benefit you. So if you've got some great ideas for future forums, please let us know. And as I mentioned, the forum recording will be posted to cpsboard.org in your CPS coordinators area on the website. And with that, I think we might call it a day.